This camera's like bugged out. What the bright light? Oh, they're doing it. That's right. Let me stop giving them energy. Comfortable. Woo! So what's going on, everybody? I want to go ahead and drop a little tea. Some of you might find contrary, or some don't think religion, don't think anything like that. Just pay attention. All right. This is Shalat. I forgot how you pronounce that stuff, but it's the gummies. Tungali and Shalat, whatever that stuff's called. What I've been doing this for like almost 2 months now. And I can feel a difference. I actually have the actual mineral. I just haven't used it yet because I want to build up a little bit. Because I take sour soap and Irish sea moss, real Irish sea moss every morning, a tablespoon. You can have 2, 3. It's not gonna kill you. But you need to get your blood work done. But you have to have them look at your minerals, because a lot of people get blood work done. These damn doctors and hospitals, they don't. They just gonna look at the cholesterol and all this stuff, and you're pre-diabetic. Have them look at what's causing the problem. What minerals are you missing? These doctors are just phenomenally stupid. But anywho, tea. Do not look at this religious. If you are a religious person, find something contextual, something that will make sense. In order for us to all connect, we have to put away all the perversions that are not of our ancestors. We have to live righteously. I mean, beyond the scope of what you think is righteous. That means, like me, I play on Facebook and stuff. I mess with people. But it means for one another, to one another, we have to put down indifferences. It doesn't mean that we sit there and we turn the other cheek to an idiot. If you gotta put them down, you gotta put them down. But don't lose sleep. In order to live a righteous life, you must look at things as if it's a bird's eye view, not just being involved. Because most times we say, I was involved in it, but what did you do? How did you perceive it? Was it more this drama to be able to have a conversation and say, I was there? Oh, what he did to so-and-so? When you start having a righteous eye, and a righteous heart, with a righteous gut, with a righteous hindsight, you put away everything. And I ain't talking about relationships and all that, because in order to have a true relationship with one another, that's what I'm talking about, connecting. We must be righteous in heart and our deeds. If you're in a relationship, or if you're dealing with somebody and you know you shouldn't be, or whatever it may be, whatever, a job, remove yourself. I know a lot of people think I'm talking specifically to them. I'm speaking broad. This is about being righteous. It's not about Christendom and Muhammadan and all that other nonsense, Catholicism, none of that. It is about changing your perception of your brother and your sisters. It doesn't mean, again, I have to insist upon you knowing this. It doesn't mean that you allow anything. No. Doesn't mean that you just walk into the lion's den, like somebody who's has amnesia or just gone cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs like that Chinese dude. No. Or that sister. No, it doesn't mean that. Because that biting stuff will bring them around. Shilajat. Yes, that's Shilajat. That's what it is. Yes. And Tung Ali. Thank you. Thank you. Snow. You on the ball, girl. You know what's up. But then you know what's up. But you must have a righteous demeanor. In order, you're not going to ascend. There is no way you are going to ascend without being righteous and steadfast. You see how we're reading in the Iron Republic about the diems, the monetary. And the individual who's there talking to Professor Morris is still holding on to the old world ways, the perversions, attempting to make what's going on in the old world, which is status and this, that, one over the other, as if it's all right and it's the norm, and it's not. It's like all these homosexuals and everybody, lesbians and stuff, running around wanting to push behind the agenda when there's millions who don't want that. Trust me, it's less than 1% out of 300-something million people. They won't watch this. Their handlers will. But you must be the grapevine. You have to seek your perfection. Even in the deepest of darkest moments or hours, you have to pull out of it immediately. When you feel a form of depression, I'm always in a form of depression, but not the depression in this world. I need my folk. I need my people. I need my people to come around. Not to lift me on high, put me in low, but to be the chalice. I had to put the Kermit man up. I got like hundreds of them. I made some. You'd be surprised at the ones that I made that are floating around out there. Pretty funny. Iron Republic, edited by C.J. Austin. We're not gonna beat this in the head because there's a lot still to go in here. We're just gonna. I think that's where we left off at. We're just gonna go ahead and get a few paragraphs, and then because I want to read a few books here. Okay. So, excuse me. Remember, we are in, I believe it's the 7th. Make sure, because I want to make sure you know, chapter 7. Okay, and there's no titles to each of the each of the chapters. Excuse me. This is chapter 7, and it's the Iron Republic, edited by C.J. Austin. Okay, C.P. Houston is live. Brother, take a break. I should have turned the notifications off. I meant to do that this time, and I didn't. So if it goes silent, that means the notification came in. That's what it means. I'm actually on the 4G, whatever they call it. I'm on the UHF line. All right, I'm not on the internet because the feds are in the phone so hard, or the AI, whatever you want to call it, and they just being goofballs. Anyway, the terrorist. Anyway, if you remember, we left off yesterday. We were doing the section of country was an elevated plateau, and to the northward could be seen the blue outlines of the Illyrian Hills. I love that word, Illyrian. That is just beautiful. Yes, Illyrian, Illyrian Hills. You might want to look it up and see if there's anything phonetic that might mean something in there. Now, the afternoon was perfect with an Indian summer haze. And as we traveled at the rate of about 20 miles an hour, we traversed a wide extent of territory. For those, I know somebody hit me up in Gmail. I was like, well, how come you don't put my Cash App on this? Well, I think I did the other day, but I don't want to do that. It's in my description, and sometimes Sue puts it up. So that way, usually you just donate it, and I'll shout you out and everything. I send a little love and a receipt and all that. All right. But that was, I'm not going to say your name. I don't know if that's your name anyway. I think that's just your handle with Gmail. So you were the second person to ask that. So we appreciate it. But yeah, it's just, like I said, $ Indian Jim, uppercase IJ, one and only. Anyway, let's get back. As we traveled at the rate of about 20 miles an hour, we traversed a wide extent of territory. Scenes of Arcadian beauty were spread out everywhere. And as I thought of the miserable hirelings and wage earners of America, listen to this, miserable hirelings and wage earners, and he's not lying, of America and the old world. This is actually not America, y'all. I mean, I use the term and I use it vaguely and loosely. Before that word even became something, you got to remember that was little Spain, little Havana. It was all over. Little France. I mean, it had nothing to do with the world we perceive as today. America was not what you think it is. It's based on something else, but that's a whole nother topic. I thought of the miserable hirelings and wage earners of America and the old world, the old world, the sweatshops and crowded tenements, the dwarfed and stunned lives that result from the mad struggle for wealth. I said feelingly, I would to God, he messed up here. I would to God, the poor of my country could come here. I wish to God, it shouldn't be would. I wish to God the poor of my country could come here when they die. It would be heaven to them. I actually, y'all, I had to put the word in. It says would. See, right there where my ring finger is? It's supposed to say wish. But that's what happens. There's a lot of that. And it's all right. Anyway, I wish to God the poor of my country could come here when they die. It would be heaven to them. It says heave. He must have took a drink here or something of half sleep. What more could heaven be? Exclaimed the professor, stretching out his hands towards the lovely, undulating fields, to live, to labor, and to love. Is that not heaven? Unharrowed by galling apprehension of poverty and want, walking the sweet sequestered vale of life and taking from the hands of all providing, beneficent nature, every good and beautiful thing that can minister to our wants. What more can heaven be than an endless continuation of the same? And this would be the condition of the whole world if men could learn, pay attention, learn the unwisdom of selfishness. Sit here and tell me you're unselfish. That is a learned behavior. It's a false wisdom. Prove to me you're unselfish. You don't have to send under my Cash App. That's for those who want to help assist me to get books. I want you to prove to me you're unselfish. That you have a righteous heart. Your demeanor is different. And you know there's more to benefit there than it is in the state that you are in. I guarantee it. I know. Or were but wise enough to combine for mutual protection against themselves. That means we wean out the murk and the mire, the darkness, the Jannah. Oh, you don't want to be the beautiful daughter looked away listlessly, as though she were bored with it all. The youth, the ignorance. I felt with a gang of disappointment that this beautiful woman must, after all, be shallow and feelingless. But when a moment later she turned to me with a wistful look in her eyes, and asked me if I did not think that if one had been born in heaven and had never lived anywhere else, they would grow tired of it, I comprehended something of the ennui that she had made. Life tiresome to her, even in so blessed a country. And again, I snapped my fingers at the fiddlers of Aronia, for said I to myself, although I knew little of the female heart, no woman would become Inuit with this glorious country. If she had really learned to love, and the object of her love were here. Almost leave it off right there. Oh, he gets saucy. And I ain't talking like heaven bearers with the clock and the lifting the dress and the heaving and the holding and none of that. Y'all really enjoyed Heaven's Bearer, right? It could be read with this as well. I have so many books. We're talking about a difference of anywhere from 60, 80 to 250 years. No correlation to the same statements or in anything. So that should inform you as to something. Okay. Okay. Let's get into a little bit of the original history, because we must stay in the knowing of who we are. And so we're going to go to George Jones' An Original History of Ancient America, which is an Elabon classic. I remember growing up watching Elabon classics on Channel 13 at 24, I believe, was it? Here we go. Okay. Hidden. Let me get a little coconut over here. This is delicious also. I've been drinking coconut water. Oh my goodness, for the last 2 weeks. Oh, you talking about being hydrated, son? It's just so good with the lemon or the lime and the ginger. Forget about it. PBA free, PSA free, PBA, PBA free. Excuse me. Okay, so you don't have and there's no other harmful chemicals other than the fact it is semi-petroleum based and silica. Okay. Do yourselves a favor. Now remember, we are right at chapter 7. The religious and national analogies. Excuse me, bro, because this is not what I'm trying to talk. Anyway, attempting to talk. Excuse me. The religious and national analogies between the Tyrians and Mexican Aborigines, the traditions of the latter, etc. Section 1. Analogies in religious ceremonies and idols of worship: Saturn, Apollo, Astarte, and the emblem of the cross. If you don't think that we were ever outside of these walls, then why would we know about these different places? And though the idiots would have us believe outer space to keep you from knowing your lands, think about it. Analogies in religion. Okay, I'm going to read it again. I think you got that. In investigating the important similitudes contemplate in this and the following sections of the present chapter, the word Mexican, for convenience, now, mind you, will be understood to comprehend all the Western continent and its ancient condition, not essentially North America, and by the words ancient condition, we would be understood to mean that period of time anterior to the landing of Columbus, 1492. Now, y'all know I have all the books, 41, 43. I have even way before that, 1430 something. Anyway, we'll get to there one day, AD. The Tyrian customs will be brought forward and then compared with the Mexican. The history of Tyrus will not be required here. That interesting branch of our subject is reserved for the second book of the present volume. Now, the religious ceremonies of the Tyrians would have been lost, but for their being preserved by the Carthaginians, a colony from Tyrus, and between whom there existed the strictest union and friendship, and may justly be supposed to have practiced the manners and customs of the parent country. The Tyrians also would follow the customs of the Sidonians and the Canaanites, their original ancestors. Now, gathering, therefore, evidence of religious ceremonies from Canaan, Sidon, Tyrus, and Carthage, for they were all of the Phoenician family. Now, we shall include those nations under one general term, visual as far as Tyrian. For the same convenience as the term Mexican is used, all right, mind you, not only will the Tyrian customs be gathered from the nations mentioned, but from the Bible also, so that the reader will perceive that the ground for sustaining our superstructure is not a light or a sandy one, Now, the Tyrians were essentially idolaters. So were the ancient Mexicans. The former built temples to their plurality of gods, and the latter did the same. Now, a lot of y'all know that Mexican was never a term going back to the ancient times. You got to remember who was writing this and how they negate with the history and the time and the period that they're in. Just be mindful of that. Anyway, temple to their plurality of plural, as in plurality of gods. The latter did the same. Now, the Tyrians sacrificed human beings upon the unhallowed dedication of their temples, and the Mexicans followed this horror of a false religion to its full extent. For at the dedication of the last chief temple of Mexico, nearly 70,000 captives taken during 4 years' warfare were sacrificed to perpetuate their deities. Now, the Tyrians devoted human sacrifices to the god of war upon slight disaster or defeat, and the Mexicans had the same remedy for sorrow. And the many altar blocks discovered amid the ruined temples of Copan, it's not that true, but let's continue. Even now bloodstained, oh, it is, you can see it, have been clotted with human gore. A very important god among the Tyrians was that of Saturn. A description is necessary, okay, on account of the strong analogy of the Mexican deity, and that proved by the sculpture of the newly discovered ruins. This strong similitude as a Rosetta Stone led us to the first translation of the architectural wonders. Now, what these Pelskins will not say, which is well known, that our ancestors were sacrificing those who came to this land and came with bad intentions, and also those who would usurp and work with them. Hence the fall. Anyway, led us to the first translation of the architectural wonders. Cronus, or the god Saturn, Cronus, time, among the Tyrians was the deity to whom were sacrificed the most beautiful infants and children, and of the highest families. It was insatiate, ever asking, always receiving, and ever destroying. This sacrifice to the Moloch of the Tyrians was derived from the Canaanites, their original ancestors, Moses, and warning his people to beware of the false gods in the countries they might conquer, and referring especially to that of Canaan, says, for every abomination to the host, or y'all might say Lord, which he hateth, have they, the Canaanites, done unto their gods, for even their sons and their daughters have they burnt in the fire of their gods. Well, that's Deuteronomy, 11:31. Again, in the third book of Moses, the lawgiver says, and thou shalt not let any of thy seed, offspring, for those who are unaware, I think y'all all know, pass through the fire of Moloch. That's Leviticus. And y'all know what chapter that is in verse 21. And again, God spake by his prophet, whosoever he be of the children of Israel, or of the strangers that sojourn in Israel, that giveth any of his seed unto Moloch, he shall surely put to death. The people of the land shall stone him with stones, and I will set my face against that man, and will cut him off from among his people, because he hath given of his seed unto Moloch, to defile my sanctuary, and to profane my holy name. Leviticus 22:3, In the New Testament, this same god of the Canaanites is called Moloch, a name generally used in poetry to express the demon of blood. Yea, ye took up the tabernacle of Moloch. That's Acts 7, I believe, verse 43, right? This was an ancient custom of the Canaanites and followed by their descendants, the Sidonians, Tyrians, and Carthaginians. It was also practiced by the Mexican Aborigines. Now, the Tyrian god Saturn, which he is very inconclusively mistaken, but we will run with it, with the Mexican probably, not with the original authors of that land, was represented in Asia. Listen, the Tyrian god Saturn was represented in Asia and Africa by a large metal statue. Facts. You can't see it now. The figure was bent slightly forward with the hands extended, as in the act of receiving or soliciting. The arms and hands were in that position that upon the child being placed in the hands of the statue, the weight of the smallest infant was sufficient to displace its position, and consequently, it instantly slipped from the hands of the idol into a fiery furnace, ever burning beneath this god of infanticide. In this manner were the most beautiful children of the Phoenicians destroyed, as an offering to the insatiated Moloch. This Canaanitish practice, which was feared by Moses, was actually practiced centuries after by his people for another prophet speaking of the impending, his people, downfall of Jerusalem and of her accumulated sins, says, moreover, thou hast taken thy sons and thy daughters, whom thou hast borne unto me, and these hast thou sacrificed unto them, false gods, to be devoured by flames. Thou hast slain my children, and delivered them to cause them to pass through the fire for them. Now we know that's Ezekiel 16, right? Verses 20 and 21. I'm going to have to go on my Bible here in a minute. Now, the sculpture of the ruins in Mexican America, I believe that's right, correct me if I'm wrong, illustrates this very custom of the Tyrians. And as it was one of the greatest importance with that nation, so has it received more attention than any other subject. We want to stop right there. Let me highlight that. Now, you got to remember who's pushing Christianity, who's speaking on a language that has not been truly dissected and correctly, phonetically put out there, because the Yiddish don't know it, the Ashkenazis. And if they did, they have lied. As long as they have you not knowing your truth of history and how you live. That's why I said when I started this that you must be righteous. And I ain't talking about it in a religious way, but we can be very secretive, even in communicating on here with them watching and recording, that they never know anything, as long as you actually do your best and make your best attempt to live a righteous life. And I ain't talking like what you may think. Just remember that. Get your heads together, start actually performing these things, and you will see for yourself. Nobody has to tell you anything, nor guide you. You'll see it for yourself. Let's get into this Arthur Kessler, the 13th tribe. Let me see something here. I remember when I was at the last part of the Book of Giants. I didn't stop reading it. I just wanted to read it with something else. When we were talking about the Watchers, Nephilim, and the Book of Enoch, and Giants, which called of North America, that's important. I thought it would be best to stop reading those, because they're synonymous with other books of information that can condition you to believe something you shouldn't, or elevate you to have the premises of notion for something else. Okay? So Arthur Kessler, the 13th tribe. Okay, hold on. When we last reading this, we were actually going over how the Yiddish language came to be, its origin and its place. And it's not Shemitic, it's not Aramaic, it's not ancient as far as the truth of it. And it dang sure is not Hebraic or of Israel or whatever you want to call it. So let's get into, we'll read the last chapter we crossed off on, and not only of the educated Burgeresi, but the clergy too was predominantly German. All right, remember that? However, this tidy separation became blurred when latter Jewish arrivals from the West also settled in the towns and formed urban ghettos. Sound familiar, my brothers? The relationship between the Negro and the Jew, for I am not your Negro, thank you, James Baldwin, and you are not a Jew. Anyway, not only the educated Burgerese, Bogoris, but the clergy too was predominantly German, a natural consequence of Poland opting for Roman Catholicism and turning toward Western civilization, just as the Russian clergy after Vladimir's conversion to Greek Orthodoxy was predominantly Byzantine. Secular culture followed along the same lines in the footsteps of the older Western neighbor. I always told people to look into Christianable, a false deity worshipped. Anyway, the first Polish university was founded in 1364. Wonder who created that? In Krakow, then a predominantly German city, as Kotsker, the Austrian, has put it rather smugly. Now, the German colonists were at first regarded by the people with suspicion and distrust, yet they succeeded in gaining an increasingly firm foothold, and even in introducing the German educational system, the Poles learned to appreciate the advantages of the higher culture introduced by the Germans and to initiate their foreign ways. Now, the Polish aristocrats, or is aristocracy, anyway, I hate that word, too, grew fond of German customs and found beauty and pleasure in whatever came from Germany. Now, we know a lot of Negroes would say Moors, and that's what he's talking about. Not exactly modest, but essentially true. One remembers the high esteem for German culture among 19th century Russian intellectuals. It is easy to see why Khazar immigrants pouring into medieval Poland had to learn German if they wanted to get on. Those who had close dealings with the native populace no doubt also had to learn some pidgin Polish, or Lithuanian, or Ukrainian, or Slovak. German, however, was a prime necessity in any contact with the towns. But there was also the synagogue and the study of the Hebrew Torah, Thorah. One can visualize a shtetl craftsman, a cobbler perhaps, or a timber merchant speaking broken German to his clients, broken Polish to the serfs on the estate next door, and at home mixing the most expressive bits of both Hebrew into a kind of intimate private language. Now, we know Yiddish is not Hebrew. They've already stated that. How this hopscotch hotpot, became communalized and standardized to the extent to which it did, in any linguist guess. But at least one can discern some further factors which facilitated the process. Among the latter immigrants to Poland, there were also, as we have seen, a certain number of real Jews from the Alpine countries, Bohemia and Eastern Germany. You would call them Moors. Just as the German Gentiles were culturally superior to the Poles. And just as the Catholic clergy, because you remember, there was not a lot of races and crayon colors back then. That's a Nazi creation because they came to the New World and they had to subjugate and take our people from every corner and assimilate and destroy them. Yeah, were culturally superior to the Poles, and just as the Catholic clergy was German, so the Jewish rabbis from the West were a powerful factor in the Germanization of the Khazars, whose Judaism was fervent but primitive. To quote Polyak again, those German Jews who reached the kingdom of Poland, Lithuania, had an enormous influence on their brethren from the East. The reason why the Khazar Jews were so strongly attracted to them was that they admired their religious learning and their efficiency in doing business with the predominantly German cities. The language spoken at the Heber, the school for religious teaching, and at the house of the Gever, notable rich man, would influence the language of the whole community. They weren't taxing nobody, loaning people shit, or none of that. A rabbinical tract from 17th century Poland contains the pious wish, may God will that the country be filled with wisdom and that all Jews speak German. Characteristically, The only sector among the Khazarian Jews in Poland which resisted both the spiritual and worldly temptations offered by the German language were the Karaites, who rejected both rabbinical learning and material enrichment. Thus, they never took to Yiddish, according to the first all-Russian census in 1897. In 1897, people, where there were 12,894 Karaite Jews living in the TRU Empire, which of course included Poland. Of these, 9,666 Gave Turkish as their mother tongue. For example, presumably the original Khazar dialect. So 2,632 spoke Russian and only 383 spoke Yiddish. Now the Karaite sect, however, represents the exception rather than the rule. Remember I told you all the study about the Khazarians, the original Khazars, not the Ashkenazis. Anyway, they assimilated and took that that identity. The Karaite sect, however, represents the exception rather than the rule. In general, immigrant populations settling in a new country tend to shed their original language within 2 or 3 generations and adopt the language of their new country. The American grandchildren of immigrants from Eastern Europe never learn to speak Polish or Ukrainian and find the Jabberwocky of their grandparents rather comic. So Jabberwocky, the sounds. I guess you learned something else today. Rather comic. It is difficult to see how historians could ignore the evidence of the Khazar migration into Poland on the grounds that more than half a millennium later they speak a different language. Incidentally, the descendants of the biblical tribes are the classic example of linguistic adaptability. First, they spoke Hebrew in the Babylonian exile, Chaldean at the time of Yeshua, Aramaic in Alexandria, Greek, and in Spain, Arabic, but later Ladino, a Spanish-Hebrew mixture, which people call themselves Latino. It's nothing to do with a people, it's a language. Anyway, identity, but changed languages at their convenience. The Khazars were not descendant characteristics with their co-religionists. And we still have these Pelskins and politicians calling them fucking Jews. I had to say it like that because I have lost utter respect for the liars who created the 5G, putting them all over the place, all up in the military complex, stealing money from us, put us in the position that we should never be in because we entrusted, because they murdered their own. Yeah, no respect for them ever again. Behold a pale horse. Mr. William Cooper. Well, they scared. Well, they hiding the notifications. People have to really check the notifications when I go live. They come later on, but they really doing they damnedest. They like, and instead of being afraid of me, because that's what you do when you want to censor and block and this, that, and other, they should just let it be. I mean, they're supposed to be perfect, right? They're supposed to have all this locked down, right? So what are they worried about? No, I didn't do my worst in saying that. I'm just pointing out a mere fact. Here we are. Alert, alert. Alert, alert. The Constitution of the United States, Article 1, Section 9, Paragraph, we already went through all this. The privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless when, in cases of rebellion or invasion, the public safety may require it. So now you see why they allow people over here? Why is the union running around on land acting like they in hiding? Sit up and take notice. Section 7323 states that this habeas corpus legislation is enacted by Congress as an exercise of the rulemaking power of the Senate, and as such, it is deemed a part of the rules of the Senate. Now, can you believe this treason? Check it out. Chapter 33 of the Title 28 United States Code is amended by adding at the end thereof Section 540, which states that the Attorney General and the Federal Bureau of Investigations, FBI, may investigate felonious killings of officials and employees of a state or political subdivision when such investigation is requested by the head of the agency employing the official or employees killed, and under such guidelines as the Attorney General or his designee may establish. So you know what next part we're waiting on, right? Notice that the above paragraph does not say by invitation of the state, but says by the employing agency. Once the feds are involved, they always hold jurisdiction. Do you see the weaponization? Are you paying attention to the weaponization? This is serious. It could establish the legal precedents for justification of a police state once the courts rule that the states have given up their right to jurisdiction under this act. Notice that it only involves crimes of a political nature. What do you say? Trump in Florida, 37 counts. Biden doing he did. Hillary Clinton, they're looking at her again, the feds. Hammers, the bleach chip. All this laid out, and they all work together hand in hand in their perversions. Epstein, Gisley, whatever her name is. And so many others. I hope you're paying attention. I'm not a politician. I'm not into politics. And there's good cops, but there's so many bad bills. Yes, vaudeville show, hon. Excellent. Businesses are required to report all cash transactions of $10,000 or more. Now, this was written in the 1980s. What have we seen recently? With certain, the baby and all those goofies, 10,000 or more. Do you see that? And that is section 7601/60501-IRS. It has been reported to me, but not verified by me, that this requirement has been lowered to 3,000. This has nothing to do with drugs, but has everything to do with the IRS. The act establishes a requirement to record and verify the ID of a purchaser of a money order or other financial instruments of 3,000 or more. Now that's in section 6184/5325. Why? Why? Well, this is a big one. The act orders a study to be made on whether to withdraw $100 bills and $50 bills from circulation. That's section 6187. This is all about Anti-Drug Abuse Act of 1988. Excuse me, 1988. Well, okay. So anyway, this would virtually propel us into a cashless society. Do I need to read some more? $23 million has been allocated for a machine readable identity document program. Has been allocated for a machine MRIDP. MRID? The excuse used is to be able to identify known criminals who attempt to cross borders. The type of border is not named, required in legislation, and could be the border of your city, county, or state. It also raises the question of how they are going to get the criminals to accept the identity document program chip without requiring all citizens to participate. Section 4604. This data pool will be shared by Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, or FBI. Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, IRS, Federal Aviation Commission, U.S. Marshal Service, and the U.S. goddamn Coast Guard. Excuse my language, y'all, but I'm just saying. We're going to leave it out. Nope, don't worry about the DNA of the gods. I told you about the war and blah, 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 and the gods have eaten, da-da-da. There's a reason why I switched up. Now you've got information for those who have been staying steadfast. For those who haven't, you can go back and watch the other videos and then play catch-up. Seeing how you want to watch drama and everything else, and you don't want to elevate yourself. And actually, I knew that, but I figured more would be here than that. So go listen to the women and people screaming and hollering and brothers stealing and trying to sensationalize stuff that they don't really have all the information to. Go right there and listen to them. Don't waste your time over here. We have 48 minutes. I appreciate you. Shout you out. I'm getting the hell off of here because I want to finish my little bit of food and keep it going. Hey, Snoop Baby, Mikey Hill, original Lone Wolf. Why wouldn't let me comment at all? Why? Much love, family. Mikey Hill. Yeah, I know, baby. Thank you, hon. T. Hines, what's going on, beloved? Mad love, respect, family. You already know. They messing with the internet. They always do, bro. They always do, brother. It's all right. Righteous life. Try to eat healthy and be fair. That's right. And it means to self. When I say righteous, it means to. Ascension is not going to happen. And we will connect. When you start actually living righteous, it has nothing to do with relationships and this, that, and bad stuff and your jobs. And those are distractions. You dig? Ganja, what's going on, beloved? Good to see you here, brother. Herbo, peace, brother. What's happening, beloved? No, you already know, man. Barbell show, Snowy. Yes, you already know, baby girl. Anyway, I appreciate y'all. Share this. For the new subscribers, welcome to the tribe. We're going to read again later. Don't worry. I got to read something else because I just have to. Because y'all saw what I read yesterday. I got to get back in there for the hafters and because that's just magical. Jumping around actually helps the brain and formulate and format certain things that I believe is quintessential. That is very important. All right. Get with you all in about 3 or 4 hours. Be a late one. All right. I'm a love and respect.